Monster Hunter Wilds is failing, and Capcom says it's PlayStation's fault. Hello and welcome to Triangle Square, the PlayStation Podcast. I'm your host, J. Jonah Jameson, and alongside me today is... I'm your host, Brett, and alongside me is Chris Figs. As always, Chris. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about some shakeups continually happening to EVO, the fighting tournament that everyone's favorite PlayStation company, Sony, owned and then doesn't own, and then apparently some other stuff going on. We're going to talk about the PlayStation 6 being rumored by a pretty reliable leaker for things, and get into some of the talks about what the rumor points toward. We're going to talk about Capcom also. It's probably the big thing, blaming PS5 price for the lower success, maybe, for Monster Hunter Wilds in comparison to what we saw with Monster Hunter World. So we're going to get into that in a bit, but we're going to start the show off in the way that we always do, and that is first and foremost checking in on what we have been playing so we can let the people know what they should be playing, what they should avoid, or just let them have some fun times hearing us talk about games that maybe they have no intentions of playing, but just want to hear us jabber about. Chris, I'm going to start off with you, man. I think our first two games, we're going to go back to back on those because I think we've spoke ad nauseum about both of them. But one of the big changes that's changed for both of these games is that we have received the coveted platinum trophy. So start us off. You are now the proud owner of a 165th platinum for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So going back through, people, if you've been listening for the last few episodes, you know Chris's journey with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, but also you know that he had to kind of go back and play some more in order to get this trophy. So I guess, talk about it as you see fit, but I think the big question, if I were really going to look at something that we haven't really touched on because we couldn't, is how has the journey of replaying the game affected your opinion of the game? And I think that kind of goes into something I'm going to talk about with mine as well, which is sometimes going for the platinum can have an impact on your view of the game, positively or negatively. So go ahead, Chris.
I don't know. I'm going to be honest. Like, if I wasn't sending it to you, there's a small chance I'd play it again. I really like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Because now it's like, now I can do it on super hardcore and go for those trophies. And it's,
which is that like a separate trophy list they came out with?
Yeah, it's a DLC for that. So first it starts off with like a basic, like, you can't see yourself on the map. The map, you have to follow directions, look at signposts, no landmarks, that's the word I'm looking for.
Oh, this is the thing that you sent me that was like, there's a way to play it like I talked about,
like
Morrowind.
Oblivion, or Morrowind, it's that. But then to get one of the trophies, you have to put on 4 modifiers that make it harder, but to get out of 10, but to get a trophy, you have to do all 10. So it'll do some like crazy stuff where it's like there's one where you can't ask for directions because you always smell, so people don't want to talk to you, which means you can't. The only way without that perk in hardcore mode to get a map marker is to get directions. So if you take that perk, you can't do that anymore. So that you literally just have to know where you're going. So I'm at a point where it's rough.
I want to see someone do that on a first play.
Oh God,
like,
I don't think I'd want to.
Because
no.
Here's the thing: is like doing that on a replay. There's a chance that you'll remember, and you'll have a familiarity with the world to some degree. Doing that as a first time play,
I don't think
move.
The game's not good enough. Well, I don't know how to explain it because the game is good enough.
The
but
game
you have
doesn't
to
have
buy
a way
in.
for you.
You have to buy into what the game is, and if you're at a point where
why would you buy in at that level?
Yeah, you're halved on how much you can carry. You get hungry faster. You smell faster. It's harder to lockpick. Like those things are already hard. So like, do you know how many times I've washed Henry in a trough? Like, and it's literally like, again, when I talk about the immersiveness of this game, you have to do that because if you smell, you can't stealth. Like, it's stuff like that. So I don't know. I left leaving KCD2 with just like, this is a defining RPG. Like, and I'm sure when you make fun of me for continuing to play Silksong in like 30 minutes, we'll have the conversation. But like, to me, I think like right now I would put it as KCD2 should be game of the year because it does more for its respective genre than any game this year does for their genre. As much as I love Clair Obscur, actually I shouldn't say that. As much as I understand why people love Clair Obscur, the whole conversation around Clair Obscur, as great as it is, was it's a return to Final Fantasy, right? KCD2 is putting in the things that are there you're not going to find elsewhere, and that to me is like part of what puts it so far above.
Now, I'm not saying this from a standpoint of saying that I've played the game and I understand, but a lot of the things that you've talked to me about, I'm not going to say, because there are some things that are unique within Expedition 33 as well. Like if you really want to go into the mechanics, you can, of course. But just saying that, generally speaking, I would agree with you. I think what a lot of people liked about it is that it shows that you can do a modern take on something like Final Fantasy while still moving plenty of things forward. Mm-hmm. And bringing the quality up. And, you know, one of the big things, and that's because like you have this conversation happening from Square where they're like, yeah, we don't know if, you know, we want to make the right thing to where it's the right mix between what players want, what fans want, and what our people want to make. And it does always seem a little interesting that never seems to be turn-based. And they might be right? Like statistically speaking, they may be accurate that the majority of the player base that buys it is quiet, and they don't talk about the fact that they don't want it to go back to turn-based. It's just understood by who votes with their wallet. But to your point, and to my bigger point on Kingdom Come, knowing that I could absolutely be wrong, considering I have no form of reference with the game itself. A lot of the things I've heard you talk about sound like things that I have heard, and I mean this as in a good way. They sound like things I've heard from other games just kind of being thrown together into a pot, which is a good thing. It's right. It's why people like Breath of the Wild so much, right? Like Breath of the Wild didn't really do anything new in many ways. It was just, hey, this mechanic from Monster Hunter where you have to cook is in this game now. This mechanic where you climb on shit from Shadow of the Colossus is in this game now. We've expanded it. Like that game is kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of other games kind of being brought together to create something that's different as a result. And Kingdom Come, at least the way you've talked about it and that I've seen people talk about it, seems a bit more like that to me, which does not diminish what you're saying. It still does a lot for the genre by pulling all of those facets into a singular title as opposed to having to seek them out from a few different ones.
I think you're misunderstanding me in a way because, like, to put it more simply, like, you can make tomato sauce with a lot of different ingredients, but eventually the best tomato sauce with the newest ingredients is going to be the one that stands out.
I think that's fair to.
I think the point I'm making is like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 takes all the best ingredients of tomato sauce and then elevates it to the next level. Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's good to know. I just wanted to be sure on my side that I wasn't hearing, because what you might have meant and what I just, that's why I wanted to see was that you feel like this is literally doing a bunch of brand new things, which it very well still could. I'm not saying RPGs
but like
are
it's the same thing that everyone says about Witcher 3, where it moved the genre forward. I love Witcher 3. I got the platinum in Witcher 3. It does move the genre forward, but there's a reason that you can look at it and be like, oh, it ate Skyrim's lunch. It's Skyrim did what The Witcher 3 did in a way, but The Witcher 3 does it all better. And I look at KCD as that next one of It does all the best things.
Did you
of
mean
RPGs.
Skyrim or did you mean Fallout? Out of curiosity, because
I meant Skyrim. Nothing's better than Fallout. Don't be stupid.
Well, Fallout 4 in particular was the game that people were like, "How the hell did you come out with this after the Witcher?"
It's the same. It's the same difference. Where I'm just saying, like, when you look at certain games, you know, Metroid, Castlevania, even Rogue and roguelites and stuff, all this kind of stuff, right? When you're the best in a genre, I think you still advance that, right? So, like, to me, I don't know, maybe this is a hot take, I don't think that people are going to look at Clair Obscur as this is the next evolution, and maybe they do, but I think it's to a lesser degree. Where, to me, as someone who spent 200 hours with KCD, if you can find me an RPG that will make me feel that way again, please show it to me. And you know full well this is the third RPG in a row I've played. Like, it's not like I'm not, I play the genre, and to me, like, there's everything about KCD 2 is almost the first time I've felt like I played an RPG. Yeah, I know that sounds weird, but like in a lot of ways.
And that's kind of what I was mentioning, is that KCD 2 is kind of doing the same thing as Expedition, in the fact that it's hearkening back to a point in time where in the 90s and even in the early 2000s, the idea of an RPG was to be more obtuse and was to be more friction. It was supposed to be that you are immersing yourself in the world through all of its goods and bads, and you're going to have to make your character work within this thing. And a lot of people, I guess, as RPGs got bigger as a genre, of course, people wanted to see them smoothed over for more accessibility, which is why you have a game like Skyrim, which ironically, I was curious, so I looked it up. Skyrim and The Witcher 3 have both sold basically about even, which is kind of interesting, both around 60 million copies. But more importantly, Skyrim sold like crazy, obviously. So it succeeded in being a huge game with as much accessibility as possible. But one of the most common complaints you get from people, myself included, when they talk about Skyrim is Skyrim's still great, but one of the biggest problems that it has is that it foregoes a lot of RPG mechanics just to make sure that it's easiest for everyone to get into and enjoy. And it's cool that KCD2 is kind of riding a wave of what a lot of games are doing right now, which is actually, if we go back to the way that people used to kind of design these things, sometimes players want to be just resisted. They want the friction. They want the inaccessibility. They want something that forces them to shift the way they think, and then they can fall in love with it. And it feels different, because falling in love with Skyrim is easy. If we're being honest, like the game has so little friction that almost anyone can play it and kind of be like, I see why this is fun. But I think a game like KCD2 makes people love it in such a different way, because it forces your hand into being like, okay, I have to concede somewhere if I want to meet this game where it's at and be able to have fun with it. And then suddenly you're like, holy shit, I actually like this. And at least that's the vibe I'm getting from you. And that's good.
It'll sound ridiculous maybe, but maybe you'll completely get it. Whereas I feel like Skyrim is like taking a piece of gum out of the pack and popping it in your mouth.
Yeah.
And KCD 2 is eating a blow pop for the gum.
The work to get to the reward.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure.
Like the combat there.
That's a good way to say it, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that you seem to enjoy it so much.
I look forward to you playing it, because I'm curious how you feel. Yeah, it's one where like I'm very interested to see, because I could see you messaging me and be like, "This fucking sucks," and I could see you spending the next 100. You probably won't get the platinum, but spending the next 80 hours or something, being like, "This shit rocks." Like, I don't know which one it's going to be. It's kind of spooky.
Well, and where the year has been for me so far, because I think one of the things that is that I do like fun and flashy and accessible game mechanics, that's a good thing. But if I'm talking about like why I love a game like Tainted Grail, if you notice, most of the episodes where we were talking about it had very little to do with the combat, which is fun. I think Tainted Grail is a fun game to actively play, but what makes it fun is the sense of exploration and the reward that you get, which are ironically the things that people thought were missing from some of the newer Bethesda games, was a lack of reason to explore in the same capacity. And I think writing is a big thing for me, which is also why I tend to be a little bit soft. I have more of a soft spot for Obsidian's games than I do Bethesda's, because I think Obsidian has a better writing style. That's where I'm curious to see where Kingdom Come lands on that. Is like, where does all this kind of come together? How's the writing in Kingdom Come? Is it, like how will it land for me? Is it good and over the top and melodramatic, or is it good but witty and kind of funny?
Oh, first of all, it's fucking hilarious, but I don't know. I think the thing for me is like playing it the second time, like I just mainlined all the main quests.
Yeah.
I did one side quest because I wanted the sex scene and I didn't get it. But I think the thing was like the ending was a much emptier ending without a lot of the stuff I did. Like one of the things I noticed immediately, and I don't think this is a crazy spoiler, but like there's a point where you get troops and you talk to all of them, and then this playthrough it was like a couple of people I knew, but most of the people that I had interacted with and helped out doing side quests and my other ones who were there at the end were not. So it was like a generic dude, and it was like one of the guys was there like, I don't fucking know you, I don't want to do this. Like it was cool. So it was really rewarding to do all of that. So I don't know. It's one of these things where like I think everyone should play it. It's hard to recommend unless you know what you're going into, but I think
at the same time, you didn't know what you were going into. So it's like, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, you're proof that it doesn't really matter if you know what you're going into. It's just about trying it and see if after a little while, can it click with you?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I just think like you have to understand that eventually you're going to be carrying bags of grass for 30 minutes and you have to be willing to take that. And I guess the thing is like if you're just playing the main story, you don't. But if you want the most fulfilling experience, which is the one I had, where my first playthrough was 104 hours give or take because of what the save file said. The 104 hours give or take, and by the end, I started another playthrough immediately.
Yeah.
And like, it was for trophies, but like I just said, like there's part of me that is like I should really just play it again. To do it again. Be evil, Henry. So that's all I have to say about KCD. Please play it. Game of the year 2025.
Conversely to the other game that people are often throwing and if I'm being honest, I think more vocally throwing the game of the year. That's also because it's had more time. Kingdom Come's a little bit newer.
I will be vindicated in 5 years. In 5 years, you will see the YouTube videos. KCD2 was robbed. Chris was right on the Triangle Squared podcast, and he's been right for years, and he's vindicated now. That's what's going to happen. I'm telling you.
Expedition 33 was one of those games where I did fall in love with it. I think it's a fantastic game. And I am both glad I went for the platinum because I do think it's like a really nice it's one of those things where it's like it feels like a badge of honor that you really wanted for the game, which tends to be the case like when you love a game. As long as there's not too much, like I have other responsibilities. I can't just spend 400 hours getting a platinum for a game, no matter how much I love it. And I can't drive myself crazy with repetitive gameplay personally. Depending on what that repetition is, right? Depending on the gameplay loop. So Expedition 33 kind of became this thing where I'm very curious. I need to look into it and see whether or not New Game Plus was there day one. I want to say that it wasn't. And if it wasn't, then I think that the way that these trophies were designed, I guess they would have always known they were hoping to get New Game Plus in, but looking at this trophy list day one, I think that some of these trophies are like, ooh, these are kind of rough and a lot of grinding to push someone toward like the get level 99 trophy.
I'm actually almost positive New Game Plus was in there because I think I had intended to play my playthrough blind and then do it in New Game Plus, and I played it on launch. So It was definitely
one of the biggest upsides is I did the playthrough blind. You told me, and this is just one of those fun stories. Before I started the game, like not the day of, but at some point when you knew I was going to start it, you were like, "Hey, don't forget the old key or something." And I remember I completely forgot about it, and I only remembered because I got the item and I said, "Oh shit, that's the thing Chris told me to get." And I was like, "I guess I'm glad I got it." But I think it was that was a good example of. The thing that's easy to miss is the type of thing I seldom do miss because of the way I tend to play games. I'm looking for everything I can do throughout it as long as I really like it. So of course we get to this little festival and I'm like, okay, I want to do everything. Who will let me talk? How can I get more coin? Give me coin. And so that was kind of cool to stumble into. And what was great about that is because that's the only missable, when it got to the end and I had done all the hard stuff and all that was really left was, okay, find the lost gestrals, find all the disc. And I was very close on all of them. Like find the there was like 2 remaining to do journals that I had not picked up. So it was like very small things to pick up and then hit level 99. And to that end, I think it's not the worst, but I do think that I would have liked the game more. And I have a feeling that right now, in recent memory, when I talk about the game, there's going to be a little bit of me going for platinum actually slightly stain the experience. But I feel pretty confident that in a year from now, when I'm not thinking about that and it's not so fresh, I think if you talk to me about the game, that kind of goes away. Like it's not a gut reaction. Instead, I'm just like, oh yeah, fantastic game, beautiful, lovely, and I won't even think about that. But in the immediate, I kind of have that. Going for platinum was both a positive and a negative toward the game in a hard way. So I very much enjoyed that. That was platinum 240 for me. So
nice,
Chris, you're catching up. Also, I like that it was like a capstone game because I kind of like when you get a game that you love is platinum on like the 5s or the 10s or the 100s is like the ideal, or even like the 25s, like my 275th platinum. Let's see, what am I going to end up? I guess I got to consider what I want 250 to be.
I think my 100 was Persona 5. And my plan was for my 200 to be Persona 5. So we'll see how it goes.
You're going to do the original P5? Or are you just going to do another
PS5 version? So I have 200 will be Persona 5, 300 Persona 5.
Gotcha. Well, I'm pretty happy to move on to that. I'm going to reference it. I'm going to reference the game a few times because I do think that much like you're talking about with KCD2, there's a quality there, right? And so moving along, Lost Soul Aside finally came out, and that's a game that I have talked about a bunch on this podcast. I've been waiting for a long time. Chris, as you may remember, and God, am I glad this game didn't come out the year that we were doing the draft because it would have completely fucked my draft up.
Yes, it would.
I was bullish, but I was bullish knowing that the game would, in my mind, I was like, the game's probably going to be like a low 80, high 70 minimum. Unfortunately, I missed that mark. But here's the thing. The game is a really interesting example, and I think that playing it, I think I'm generally softer. I think that it depends on how you feel about JRPGs. I often feel like JRPGs waste my time personally. One of my biggest complaints, if you've been listening to the show a long time, is that I think that Persona 5 Royal could have easily been 40. And I know that I was over the average, but I think that even with the 20 hours I was over, I still think that 50. Game probably could have been 40. No, I wasn't 50 over.
50.
No, it was
you
not.
Said you spent 150 hours. You were 50 hours over.
The average platinum time is 120 hours. I looked at it.
There's no chance.
When we went through that.
I did that at 100. Actually, I think
you followed a guide too, didn't you?
No. You don't need a guide to platinum Persona 5.
I don't know if you do or not. I guess I don't. I didn't. So I'll give you that. But regardless, my point is even if the game were 100 hours, I think the game. And this is not saying the game deserves, like it has to be this way. For my sensibilities of gaming, I felt like Persona was longer than even remotely necessary. And I could not look at the chunk of hours and say that I viewed it to actually make the game any percentage better than I could view. So in my mind, I look at that and go, you could have cut 40 hours off of that and not been a problem at all. So where I'm going with this is that in a lot of ways, I think Lost Soul Aside really feels and looks like, and actually, if I'm being honest, it feels and looks better than a lot of these JRPGs that I honestly consider to be double A kind of roughly made RPGs, but people end up loving the JRPGs because they have these crazy stories that go on. Like the Tales series is one of the big ones. I love Tales of Xillia, but it's also got some clunky writing and odd voice acting sometimes. And I think oftentimes the games are super slow and don't get to the point. And that's why over time, Xillia I beat and I loved. Xillia 2 I got so far into and then gave up because of the stupid mechanic of having to pay back the loan. Tales of Zestiria I got about 15 hours into. Tales of Berseria I got like 4 hours into. Tales of the most recent one, Tales of Arise, I didn't stick with long because it kept losing me. I didn't want to play them. And so to that end, I can see why people start up Lost Soul Aside and have the same feeling. But I think Lost Soul Aside's combat, it gets to it a lot quicker, thankfully. And you can start to go, oh, the combat does have promise, even at the beginning when you don't have a lot of the depth. And I'm like, okay. And then the game keeps going. And for a while, I was telling Chris, like, I don't think the game is great. There's a lot of things, like there's very super varied quality of voice acting. Sometimes the writing just feels like, I'm trying to figure out if it's a translation error or if this is how it is in Chinese, where it's like a character will say something and then another character will respond with something that doesn't even feel like it has anything to do with what was said. And it's just like, Kaiser, you look like you're bleeding out. And then it's like, I can't even think of how stupid the things that they say back are, because it's just like, one of them that I saw when I played earlier, this is the best example I could give, is like one of the guys was like, you shouldn't move forward. And then my guy being like, yeah, okay, we're going to move forward. But not like a no, I have to move forward. Not like an insistence, but like one character being like, we shouldn't do this. And then my guy not being like, well, I think we should, just going, yeah, okay, we're going to move forward. I'm like, what the fuck is this writing? It just feels like they need it to move along sometimes. And so, but that's the worst thing. It's not even, sometimes it's in like the walking around in between big story beats, and like it matters insofar as it's moving you forward. But I'm like, this writing feels so weird because these responses don't feel in line. It also suffers from a problem that a lot of games suffer from, and thankfully Expedition 33 did not suffer from this bad. It has a little bit of it. I am very tired of games just not being willing to shut the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, there's nothing like being in combat and hear, how do you like Lord Arena's power, for like the 15th time in 30 seconds. And I'm just like, part of me wants to be like, and I look,
like porn.
there are no settings to lower the frequency. And I've gotten over it, but it's one of those things where it's like, this is like a very big, and it still is in a lot of games. This is a thing, but it was like a big problem in like 2002 JRPGs. Like one of the things I always make fun of Kingdom Hearts 2 is there's a section where you're at the Colosseum, in the the Hercules world, right? Olympus. And Phil keeps being like, get up on the Hydra's back.
Phil Collins?
Yeah, Phil Collins. Yeah, he's like, do, get up on the Hydra's back. Yeah, and then he's like, I can tell you, get up on the Hydra's back. But
Sora.
This game has a lot. This game has some of that where I'm just like, Jesus. It's been like a problem lately, and definitely in Japanese games. But I'm just like, not like you're going through a menu, right? Like they have this character that kind of acts as like a save point / Souls like, if you want to get there, where like when you hit her, like she'll refill your health potions and stuff. And every single thing that you move through her menu, she has something to respond to. And I'm just like, can I just click your workshop to craft some shit with them and you shut the fuck up? And so there's that. But here's the interesting part. As I've kept playing, the combat has gotten so damn good. It's very good combat. And I really think that there's a fantastic combat system hidden inside of a game that was really ambitious, and I don't think they quite had the ability and time after restarting development to do anything about it. So Chris, you sent me this thing, right, where it was like talking about the issues that they faced during development, restarted development in 2020 and all these things, and that was a really cool read through. And you also learned that the budget for this game was very small, and I gotta give them credit. The game looks really good. The character animations are fantastic. I think they do a lot given the budget they have and the fact that a majority of the people working on the game, and this is where the Expedition 33 comparison gets interesting. A lot of the people working on this game were unskilled. They came into this this is like one of the first games they've ever worked on, if not the first game, which is also true of Expedition 33. But this being a big character action game, there's a lot going on. I think they do a great job. I think a lot of the art looks really good. I think a lot of the environments look really well done. I think the game looks and runs well. I do want to say I am on PS5 Pro. I have heard that this game does not necessarily run well on a base PS5. I can't comment on that, unfortunately, but if you're on a Pro and you have it on performance mode, the game looks good. It looks pretty clear, and it runs at a pretty much steady 60 frames per second. I'm happy with that. Where it gets interesting is that the story, and I feel this way about a lot of JRPGs, so take my opinion and then filter it through your own knowledge of how you feel about a lot of JRPGs. The story feels like it's just reaching into a bag of tropes and pulling something out and stringing them together. It's not a great story. It's not the worst story. It's fine. The writing makes the story feel worse at times because of how confused the writing is at times. But then you get to this weird part too, where like I reached a part in the game earlier where I was kind of like, man, this is a pretty wide area. And if you start looking at that thing you were talking about, they originally wanted this game to have a lot of open world segments, right? And you can tell that they had ambitions to do so. And sometimes I'm like, man, I could kind of see if this game had a little bit more time to pull these things off, I could see it actually hitting them pretty well. But instead, what the game kind of ends up in is this weird area between being totally competent, but then doing a rough job of consistently giving you a reason to feel the need to explore around its relatively linear design. And what I mean by that is like Expedition 33 has some of that. But I think one of the interesting things is like even small things, right? Like in Expedition 33, some of the things that you can pick up have different colors. You have to platform to get to them. And yeah, platforming was a bold choice in Expedition 33 in some ways, but I can respect it. This game has some of that, but it's just like there's not enough variety in the way you go about it. And then the worst part is once you get the items on the side, a lot of the times they're not worth it. You don't need them. It's like literally just little like a gold ball with like a light shining up onto it, and sometimes you get it. It's like a crafting material, but the game doesn't really push you to craft in its standard difficulty to craft. And then it has these like every now and most of the time it's just like this currency that you can use in the shop, and so you end up arguably needing it, but it just doesn't feel like haha. I explored. Then it's got these things that a lot of games do too, where it's like I've got to fill my world with stuff to do. But this is the weirdest part. This feels like taking the things that people do in open world games to try and fill them out that aren't really compelling, but they at least are content, and putting those inside of a linear game. So like there's multiple mini game things you can find out in the world where it's like grab this spark and then a timer starts and you've got a platform around this little area to get all the sparks. Okay. And then there's one where it's like, oh, if you start this one, you've got to collect these 5 orbs in order. And they look like a little nucleus with a 1 and then 2 orbs and then 3 orbs, 4 orbs, 5 orbs. And you got to get them in order and figure out the way to do that within time. But none of them are hard. I've not failed any of them. I've not even gotten close to failing any of them. And they're just stuck in the middle of an area that you would originally just run through. I don't see what they really add to the game outside of giving you the reward is, hey, it's going to make combat better because we're going to give you skill points that you can then spend to make your character better. So in the fact that it rounds the game out, I kind of like it, but it's a really weird game. And I think that there's a lot to look at them and go, wow, for a first time game from a really small studio with a small budget, I'd be curious to see what you do if you ever get another chance and you get more time and maybe more money, or if you don't have to restart development in the middle. Like I can see the core of something that could be great, but instead it's a little over mediocre as a whole. And then there's parts of the whole that are like, wow, this is really good, like the combat. So we'll see how it continues to go. I think I will beat the game, which is enough for me. I don't feel like I wasted my money on it. That's good. And honestly, the more I've played the game, the better it's getting. I can see some more of its promise coming through. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't know. I know that you were talking about maybe downloading it. Have you thought about whether you want to or not? Or are you kind of just passing with everything else coming out?
Yeah, I think I'm good on it. It was funny because I was going to, and then I just kind of looked at it on the dashboard and just went, I don't need to. And I deleted it.
I think the worst thing I can say about the game is that playing it after a game like Expedition 33 is only heightening my ability to see where it's falling short, because Expedition 33 does a lot of things right. And so when you can look like all of the voice acting in Expedition 33 is fantastic. All of the writing, barring one issue that I still have with the game that we'll go into when we start talking about our games of the year, I guess we're going to have a spoiler section somewhere where I could talk to someone about this, because it is the only part of Expedition 33 that I think is ultimately a failure for what they're trying to go through. And I think it betrays a lot of what they're doing, and it betrays their otherwise very realistic writing and reactions. But it's interesting playing this game after Expedition 33 immediately, because of how much you can see. Like, if they'd have just done a little bit different, this, you can see an immediate, like, this game. And here's the thing, they've updated it a bunch, and every time I turn it on and update it, it's better. So they're doing a good job at making it better. But I almost wonder, like, if this game would have gotten 6 more months, is this a game that could have gotten to like a 72? A 75 instead of like a 65, 68, wherever it's at right now. So, it's could be worse, could be better, not bad. I think it's a $60 game. I'm glad it's not 70. I think the biggest thing is that, given that it's essentially like a 10 to 12 hour action game that you can play through 3 times, because when you beat the first one, you unlock a new difficulty, and then you unlock another difficulty if you beat it again. I think it's a hard sell at $60. I think this should have been a $40 game in terms of for the market to respond to it. And I think that no matter what, the value proposition of a game always comes into the review, even if they don't explicitly state it. It's hard to think about, this is a $70 game, this is a $60 game. And I think that's on the contrary. I think Silksong is going to get more softly viewed because of the value that it presents at $25 or $20, whatever it is. And that stuff matters. So that's what I have to say there. Speaking of Silksong, do you want to go ahead and hop into that, or do you want to talk through your other 2 first?
Yeah, I'll just say that I have one more deck.
2
more wins.
coming along, baby.
I'm on orange with painted. So I got to beat that, and then I got to beat gold, and then I can run exclusively the Anaglyph deck until I get Completionist ++, which I will say at this juncture is very intimidating to think about. Because I don't know if you know what that one is. It's where you have to get all the jokers with a gold sticker. So that one's a little spooky, because I've spent a lot of time on gold stakes, not one. So I'm a little worried about it, but yeah, that's all I got to say about Balatro. It's almost there, man. It's coming along.
Man, it's going to be a crazy day when we finally have the moment that Chris platinums Balatro.
We're gonna have to do an emergency pod at like 3:30 in the morning. I'm like, Brett, you have to wake up. It's time to podcast.
All of your platinums come in the middle of the fucking night. Yeah, I know. I'm aware. Yeah. All right. Slay the Spire is back on your list.
Yeah, man. I've been playing a lot of Slay the Spire recently. It's fun because Slay the Spire, it's like Balatro, where you can't not have fun playing it. Like, you can finish a run and be like done, right? But like the next run is fresh. You don't know what's gonna happen. It's new. So yeah, I've had some cool runs.
That's an interesting thing in general, right? Because like, I mean, you're right, but it's new within a framework, right? And I think one of the things for me is that even though I really do like roguelike games like that restart you every run, I like ones that you eventually move through in a way. And that's why I think a game like Inscription was so cool to me, because it kind of mixes the best of both worlds and it allows you to reach a point where you go, oh, I'm done. Like I am just done. The game literally is. And I mean, don't worry, a lot of games do that. And it's kind of a sliding scale of how much they do that. Because I think there's a strong argument to be made that Hades has an end point. But the real point of Hades is that you're just supposed to keep playing it. I think Inscription is very okay with the fact that you're not going to play it anymore once you're done. Like a couple of people may go back and restart, but I think the game's intention is for you to play through it, have this mystery kind of keep going along, and then you leave and go, wow, that was a fucking ride. And then you walk away. Whereas I don't think that that's what Slay the Spire is going for necessarily. I think that game is kind of meant to be played endlessly, right?
Yeah, but I guess that's kind of the point, because if I was looking for a Whopper, I wouldn't go to McDonald's. Like, I'm looking for what Slay the Spire delivers. So, like,
well, I guess what I was getting at, just to be clear on that, and I didn't quite get there, was that for me, I do still feel like eventually the thing I run into with all games is that even though you're right, it is new. It is technically a variation that you haven't quite done because it's all randomly generated and whatnot, right? But I still feel like eventually for roguelites, I hit a point where I'm like, it's new insofar as it's still more of the same. And eventually I hit this point where I'm like, I'm done with this formula and I'm just going to move on. And that doesn't make the game bad. It's surprising to see you come back to it, because I don't know that I could. Like, I love Dead Cells and I talk about that all the time, but I love Dead Cells in my memory. I don't think that I have zero drive to play Dead Cells today, even though it's probably a way different game. It's
funny because I recently was playing Dead Cells, but I don't know. I don't know. It's clear that we like just game different in a lot of ways, and I think that's part 100%. Of it. Where it's like, and it's funny because I think maybe this will put into perspective like why I'm so not bothered by a guide, because I play. So this is where I podcast, right? This is my laptop, and then this is where I play my video games. Yeah. So, like, my laptop's always right here. So, like, with KCD2, it was just a matter of having the list of missable quests up and looking to the left quickly. So.
Well, so on that, are you thinking that part of the reason for me is that I feel like there's more friction for me to have to go and look it up? And
well, no, I just think like, I don't know, like, you're not
I think for us, I think it's behavior. I don't want to do that. Even if it were that easy for me, I don't want to do that.
But I mean, again, the thing with like those games is like, when I'm playing those games, I'm not only playing those games.
No, I know. Actually, there's a game on my list that I think has had me gaming a little more like you. We'll get there in a minute. Mm-hmm. But we'll let you keep going on this, and then if needed, I can bring it up because it's not it's not even a roguelite really, but it's a type of game that is inherently kind of intended to be played repetitively. So.
I don't know. Again, I guess it depends on what you're coming to the games for. Like, I play so much Balatro because I'm trying to get through the challenges.
Yeah,
like when I get the platinum in Balatro, like I might still play it, but not as much because I've conquered that hill. But Balatro and Slay the Spire, Dead Cells to a less. No, not even Dead Cells.
You have Slay those the Spire? Are both plat.
No, God, no, it's so hard. I've gotten up to Ascension 15, and I've spent about 100 hours there, and I have to get to Ascension 20. So, for me, it's just like seeing the different things I can do. And like, again, it depends on how much, the mechanics. Like, I know Balatro better than 90% of people, I'd be willing to bet. And like, that doesn't mean I'm the best Balatro player, but like, I know how it runs. And it's the same thing with like, I love the Defect and Slay the Spire. That's who I have the most time with. So like, I know what those runs are, and I know how to like, I know what I'm going for from card one. And I think the fun part of Slay the Spire and games that repeat like that for me is like, I came close to beating an Ascension with a poison build on defect because I got a relic that let me get other cards from other heroes, and I was able to build up poison on a card that doesn't use on a hero that doesn't use poison. It was one of these things where I'm like, it's really cool how this worked. So I don't know, for me, like KCD2 is kind of an outlier because it's something that I really spent my time focused on. Whereas like right now, like I'll throw on Balatro and then spend 3 hours of my night working on something I'm writing and then play a round of Balatro. You know, it's just that's just how I play games. So like when I'm into something, like right now I'm into Silksong until the 19th, and then I was into KCD2. It's those things are taking my time, but like everything else is like, all right, I'm gonna Trails in the Sky. It's
so
like
just
I'm
to
gonna
confirm,
settle.
not going back to Kingdom Hearts. Just done.
I forgot about Kingdom Hearts. I'm still planning to do it. Right now,
3 years later.
Listen, man. I'm farther than anyone ever expected me to be. So
yeah, sounds like you might be farther in Silksong than I expected you to be.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think the way I would describe Silksong is like I messaged Blake, because I messaged you and Blake basically the same thing, where I'm like, I think this game fucking sucks. And I think what I said to Blake was like, I did a 120 on Hollow Knight.
That's an interesting way to say it. Yeah.
Because I don't think I'd be playing this game if, and I've complained about this, so I'll give him his credit, but like Sean was in party chat with me last night, watching me play and telling me where to go. And I loved that because I hated everything else. Hated it. But I will say after that, today, when I was playing and I was finding shit on my own, I was like, yeah, this is all right. This is pretty nice. This is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. I can float on the wind now. This is pretty nice. But yeah, like, getting past that,
I think what your thing is like you're reaching this point where like, and I think it is specifically 2D Metroidvanias, because you've played a number of 3D ones, even if you don't think about it. I don't know how much you have the awareness or really the experience to reference it, but you've probably heard people say the Souls games are by and large, they're not quite Metroidvanias, but they are very similar formula going in a specific way. You're blocked off from an area because you need to do something that will unlock the area. Now, Hollow Knight's a little different because like, Hollow Knight's a traditional Metroidvania where it's like you need to find something that gives you the ability that is required for you to move through to the next section.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm not opposed to Metroidvanias. Like I don't know how many I've played. I'm sure if you really wanted to look, you could figure it out. But
let me ask you this, because I think this is a bigger thing for you. Because whenever I say that I've played something, it's not always the case. But whenever I say I've played something, I think that it's reasonable that you can expect that to mean that I've beaten it. Whereas for you, I think the bigger metric is I need to specify, did you beat it? Because I think something to even be said, like I know you like RPGs and I know you play a lot of them, but the fact that you beat KCD2 is a much bigger signifier of how you feel about that game than the fact that you've played it. Yeah. And so my point here is that Silksong is a Metroidvania. You may have played some other Metroidvanias. I think Axiom Verge was that one that you were into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but how many of those have you beaten? Like, do you have a history of really beating them, or do you just kind of get into them and then you eventually fall out of favor?
I mean, I guess that depends on how pedantic you want to be, because I would argue that I've played enough Hollow Knight right now to give you an opinion on it. That doesn't mean that I have the full scope of...
But I'm more saying, like, to know whether or not you truly like those mechanics. Like, if you've played them enough to know if Metroidvanias is a genre that you like, and maybe you have.
You'd have to point out, I guess you'd have to like tell me what you consider Metroidvania. Like I beat Breath of the Wild. Like that's a Metroidvania.
No, not even a little bit.
Why? You have to go back to places when you get shit. That's Metroidvania. Because it's open world doesn't mean it's not.
Backtracking in games is not inherently Metroidvania, but
you just said the qualifier for Hollow Knight is that I have to find something to get somewhere, which is the entirety of most video games, to be fair.
I'm not even going to say that you're entirely wrong on Breath of the Wild. I think a lot of 3D games pick up pointers from them. But
we put it this way, I did all the shrines in Breath of the Wild. So the mini Metroidvanias, whatever. Again, it's entirely dependent on what you want to call a Metroidvania, because I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
any Castlevania game, of course. Bloodstained.
Nope, didn't like either of those.
And that's Castlevania. Have you played any of the Metroid games, including?
No, those are terrible.
Okay, yeah. So those are the two that make up the name.
Sure.
So you have that there.
But I don't like Rogue either, and I like roguelites. So
well, Rogue and roguelites are not the same either. But I get your point. Because what you might be telling me is you like Metroidvania lights.
I feel like we're just being pedantic.
I think that
Rogue is named after the roguelite genre is named after Rogue, and you're telling me it's not a roguelite?
Well, it's named after Rogue because it's taking the idea of Rogue and doing what Skyrim did to RPGs to it. It's making it super accessible. And I mean that with love, because I don't like Rogue either, but I like roguelite. You know what I don't like? Roguelike, which is a different genre.
I don't know. Again, I think it just depends on your
Axiom Verge, Blasphemous, Ori the Will of the Wisp, the other Ori game.
I beat Axiom Verge.
You kind of got into Nine Souls. Nine Souls is a Metroidvania.
I beat
Guacamelee is a great Metroidvania. Technically speaking, Yoku's Island Express is one. I like that game.
I mean, that's just a bad game. So
technically, the Prince of Persia that came out, The Lost Crown, is that's a Metroidvania.
I didn't like that at all. Yeah, I mean, again, it depends. It entirely depends.
Technically,
I like that.
Yep,
played that.
Iconoclast. I don't know. That's if you played that one. It's a good game.
One of my favorite games of all time, Arkham Asylum. What are we talking about? That is. Do not fucking lie to me. That is a roguelike or a Metroidvania for sure. I will. Okay, you're straight up. I straight up just disagree with you.
I'm not like hard disagreeing with you, but I don't think it completely. By the
small sliver you said, it 100% counts as a Metroidvania.
I'm gonna see. I don't think this is more of a curiosity. Is
I don't
Resident
think
Evil
you would call it that because it's older, technically. So I don't think people would
generally view Resident Evil 2 as a Metroidvania. I don't think I'd call it that, but I mean, I think that there's definitely inspirations from it in there.
Yeah, I mean,
and at that point, you could argue Resident Evil 7, which returns to a lot of the core identity of 2, just through a first-person perspective.
Look, I think the thing is, what
now we're getting pedantic. The more we continue to go down this rabbit hole, it's becoming
the thing that annoys. I think the things that annoy me, what was annoying me in Hollow Knight, is not having any idea what I was doing. You know, because once I found out, once I got the compass, the game, I was fine. But before I had the compass putting me on the map, it was just what I feared about Kingdom Come Deliverance's hardcore mode, right? Where I was going to be
is important.
I don't know where I'm going.
I haven't played Silksong at all. So my reference here is all about Hollow Knight. But I know that you also, in the same message where you told me that Silksong sucks, you said Hollow Knight was also ass. And I love Hollow Knight. I do think, like I told you, I think Hollow Knight is a little overrated. I think that it gets the same treatment that people give Breath of the Wild, which is that I don't think it's having played Breath of the Wild, not beaten it, and having played and beaten Hollow Knight, I think both games suffer from this thing where the way I hear people talk about those games, I'm like, I didn't play that game. Whatever the fuck that is, that's not what I played. Yeah, for both games. And I don't really care for Breath of the Wild, but I love Hollow Knight. I'm still tone it the fuck down.
That was even the thing I think I said to you while as we all know by now, like I speak in hyperbole almost all of the time. Like I still see like that it's good, but like to me, even still, now that I'm enjoying the game more, putting it in a game of the year category is fucking. That's nepotism. There's no better word because I know it's not technically nepotism, but that's nepotism. If that's a game of the year candidate, like that's the only way I can describe it, because Expedition 33, even though I didn't finish that game, is better. Kingdom Come Deliverance blows it out of the water. And like that was what I was saying on Discord. Like it's the same problem I have with Astrobot. If Astrobot didn't make people nostalgic, it wouldn't be game of the year. And if this game wasn't called Hollow Knight, it would be a 7, maybe an 8. And that's okay. That's a good game. But it's not the second coming of Jesus Christ like people talk about it. And that's I personally can get soured on a game by buying something expecting the way people talk about it to be completely accurate, which is my own fault. But then you buy something and you're excited about it because of all the hype around it, and then you turn it on and you're like, wow, I'd rather die than do this. So that's where like Sean came in and pushed me to figure out those two small things, and then I sat down and played an hour of Hollow Knight without taking my work shoes off, and I work in restaurants, so like I was into it, but.
Well, to your point, right? I think that there's an interesting thing, because I don't even know that I completely disagree with you. Again, having not played Silksong, but I know that Silksong's biggest thing is that it's meant to be an evolution of Hollow Knight. And I think that what you have to go through is, and I think that this is a big reason why Game of the Year conversations are divisive. I think it depends on what you think Game of the Year should be for. If Game of the Year should strictly be for the best game of the year, then I think it shouldn't matter if it's a game that's more of the same, but just refined in a way that people find to be more enjoyable. And in that sense, Silksong may very well count as something to be considered Game of the Year. And I think that sometimes, even if it's a familiarity thing, if it's done well enough, I sometimes look at games and go, it's hard not to call that Game of the Year, just because, or at least not understand how someone could call it Game of the Year because of just how well it does the very familiar thing that it does. I think that I kind of like the version that we were talking about earlier better. I tend to, where it's more about what did this bring to the industry that's not currently here, or has it been here in a long time? And the thing is, Hollow Knight's been a big boom. And I think Hollow Knight, if it would have gotten Game of the Year, I could have seen it even more, because I'm just like, it was fresh at the time, and it did a lot at the time. Silksong is doing more of the same, and it's doing it apparently really well. But I think that there's something to be said about a game like Kingdom Come or Expedition 33, where they're doing something vastly different, almost antithetical to the current market, and yet succeeding in spite of that. And they're doing, and I think that, it's hard not to also look, and Silksong benefits from this as well, team size and experience and budget and all those things. Like Expedition 33 gets a lot of love too, because you can't hardly talk about that game without someone going, that this is these people's first game ever besides the director. Like pretty much everybody else only 33 never people made shit. Dog. Oh, it's also not true. Korean guy did all the animations because they didn't know what the fuck to do, which is, again, cool story. But a Korean guy and all of his friends that they just outsourced this to did all the animations that people love about the game. And that doesn't take away from them making this game and finding the person to do them. But all the same, I think it's interesting, and I think this is going to be a crazy year of really having a lot of examples of something pushing genres forward and pushing the industry at large forward. And then I think that there's going to be this other side, which is games that people are familiar with, doing things that people are already familiar with, but just doing them really damn well. And it's going to be curious to see how online discourse, how discourse amongst like podcast communities and gaming websites are going to be. And then, of course, what we're actually going to see at the multitude of bigger game awards, like the actual Game Awards, or even like DICE Awards. Because, DICE is a little bit more developer oriented, and you can sometimes see an interesting divide between those two. But in the sense that you're playing it and enjoying it, I'm glad to see that, because I think that maybe what you needed for Silksong is what you've needed for some of these other games, which is timing and for it to click with you for whatever reason that it normally doesn't. So it seems like what it may have taken for this game to click with you was Sean nudging you until you hit a point where you were comfortable enough and you started getting excited about the thought of playing and even doing all the exploring without having to have him co-piloting. Just like with Kingdom Come, you got to this point where you were like, this game's really fucking weird and obtuse, but eventually you're just like, I'm along for the ride. So
yeah. For me, I think the biggest things that I love about Silksong is, and it's weird because I don't like the genre either, but I really like platforming in this game because it's difficult. And I like the combat, again, because it's ostensibly difficult. I don't know that I'm far enough to really say this, but I haven't found it all that hard so far.
I saw something today where someone said that it's a bigger push towards becoming a Souls-like Metroidvania than Hollow Knight was. And I don't know what they meant by that. Sometimes when people say that, they're strictly talking difficulty. But then you have the flip side of things, which is, depending on who you're talking to, I think we've had this conversation before. The Souls games aren't actually hard. They just demand that you learn them.
Yeah. And that's where, like, with Hollow Knight, or like even Sean, when he was watching me, was like, oh, you already picked up that mechanic. And I'm like, yeah, it's really not that hard to press down. Like, I figured it out pretty quick. So I'm through. This won't mean anything to you, but anyone listening, you can put in the Discord if I'm catastrophically wrong about the bosses. But I've beaten the fourth Pilgrim. I've beaten Lance. I beat a couple other things that like stopped the game and were clearly like intending to be bosses. So those are the main bosses I've beaten. And like so far, it's like if you have pattern recognition, this game's not hard. And that was kind of the thing I was seeing. That's not to say I didn't die. I died to all of these bosses. But like once you figure out the pattern, and it was like with fourth Pilgrim, I realized like if I jumped and pressed circle, I would be able to heal through and dodge his attack at the same time. So then you keep that. I don't know if Hollow Knight had it where you have that little section where if you get hit, you'll still die, but then you're healed. So yeah, it's for me, like what I've enjoyed so far is combat. Even now, exploration to a degree, but like I can tell, and this is why I'm a little worried about it, is like when the exploration pisses me off, like I have other shit I can play, and so like I'll get lost. That was my thing, that I got lost for like an hour or two the first night I played, and I was like, I'm good. Right. And then Sean share plays with me and goes, yeah, you're in the wrong spot. So like that just pisses me off. And like I get it, but it's something where it's like I could be doing this, or I could be doing a run of Balatro, or I could be doing this, or I could be playing Slay the Spire. I could be doing this, or I could be starting Chronos. All of these things that I could be doing instead of playing Hollow Knight. So that's where like I end up falling off, and I say like, oh, I don't like this game because I give it an hour and I didn't like it, and then I fell off. And so far we're past that, and I'm enjoying it. But
yeah, we'll see how it holds, because I mean, just in the reality, there's been plenty of times where you go, I'm actually kind of liking this game. You did that with Kingdom Hearts, and then all it takes is something to. It's like the old cartoons where like somebody walks by with a pie while someone's like mid conversation, and then the little air wafts by their nose, and they're like. Yeah, that's you with whatever else new shiny dangly thing is coming through. And I think the real past of how you feel about a game is whether or not that pie walking by pulls you away or not.
True.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see
KCD. Play it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that's a very big difference between the two. So, well, I guess my last two will be real quick. We watched Twisted Metal Season 2, which was fantastic. So good. And I know some people are going to feel their own way because of what's... remind me to send you my stuff. But I think that what I want... of course, it's one of those things. From what I want from a game adaptation, and also actually taking games and changing them dramatically in order to... or changing them to adapt them, but in a way that feels fresh and like there's a reason to do it. Because that's like the reason I've said it over and over again. I know that The Last of Us is well done, but it strikes me as like the least interesting game to turn into a TV show because the game was already basically a movie, and long form TV is just a longer movie. And so it's not that exciting to be like, ooh, we're going to turn The Last of Us. Are you going to turn your really story heavy game into a story heavy TV show? Like, I know people liked it. You know, it's a lot more interesting turning a game with weird stories. Amazon's Fallout was really interesting because it's a new story that I didn't already know in a world rife with opportunity. Twisted Metal is based off of a game franchise where every game the story is completely different, and you recognize the cars and the characters, but how they interact with the world and with that game changes every single time because they're not meant to be stuck in place and like they're not supposed to be this thing that continues to grow. The games are perfectly all right with just being like, here's a cast of crazy characters and this is a number of what if situations. And that's cool because then when you make a show off of that, you can point towards a bunch of things and make references, but you can make changes and no one can really look at you and go, that change doesn't make sense. Because depending on the game, Sweet Tooth has been a little bitch baby. He's also been a funny dude. He's been evil as shit. You know, like, you can keep kind of going through the games and there's almost a version of every character for them to point towards and then go, we're just going even further off of what we've seen there. But I think that just generally speaking, it has a sense of fun about it that I think most of the game adaptations are missing. And I love that for it. So I'm very excited to see you watch it. But I'm also curious because you're not a big Twisted Metal fan, like inherently. You don't have a lot of, like there's moments where I'm like, oh, that's probably this. And then I was right. And then I'm like, oh, that's referencing this from this. And they're like, oh, yeah. Like I spoiled something that happened in the last episode or two really early on in the season because I was like, well, this is probably something that's going to happen because it's like this in a game. And then my wife was like, God damn, I actually like that. Because like it's a cool twist on something I already know. But yeah, I'm curious to see where you land on it when you don't have that. And what I love about it, you don't have to have that. It's still enjoyable without any of that reference.
I mean, I really liked season 1.
Yeah, I think you'll like season 2. I'd be
the
very
only time
surprised
I've ever liked Anthony Mackie as an actor.
Dude, the only time I've ever loved him as an actor is Twisted Metal. I think he's a fine actor, but I think that his strength, like I have gone from thinking he's an okay actor who just, for whatever reason, has continued to get big. I think that his performance in Twisted Metal shows me that I think he's an underutilized actor. I don't think most people know how to utilize him correctly, and that sucks because he's a really, I don't know, man. The fact that Twisted Metal has as much heart as it does, while also being as funny as it is, but also being as dramatic as it is really interesting. It's one for the ages, man. I cannot believe that Peacock of all people are the ones doing this, but fucking respect, guys. I love it. Yeah, and it's the worst performing one, I'm pretty sure. It's still doing all right, but it just sucks to, I'm like, it's the one. It's also the least known IP, for being honest, out of all of those, you know. Let it be what it is. But we ended up playing, my wife and I, we were sitting there and I told her, I was like, yeah, Twisted Metal 4. I've been looking and downloading it anyway because I love that game. And so me and my wife sat down and we started playing through Twisted Metal 4 one night, and we, up until like 3 a.m, we were still going. We got to the final level. And just needed to go to bed because we were tired. We died and we were like, yeah, we got to go back on our save. So we're just going to wait. But yeah, having a blast with Twisted Metal 4. I love that game. It's 3 and 4 are often kind of looked at a little differently because they weren't made by the original developers. But honestly, they both do interesting things. I love 4. I think it does a lot of really good things. And I think some of the gameplay stuff was updated in a cool way. Twisted Metal Black's a better game. Yeah, sure. Twisted Metal 2's a better game too. But 4 is great. It's a fun time. And I honestly cannot wait to platinum this like I did. So I'll probably platinum this and then eventually go back and platinum 3. 3 is my least favorite game of the main ones. I kind of hope we get Small Brawl, because Small Brawl was this thing where like the take on it was it's kids in a neighborhood. And so you get to see Sweet Tooth, but he's just a kid. And so they have a competition and it's all RC cars, but all the RC cars have got like machine guns and stuff on them. The idea at the time was, can we make a Twisted Metal game that's rated teen so that we can have more people play it than just the mature rating that we had for everything else, which is pretty interesting. So I kind of hope that gets the PlayStation Plus premium treatment and ends up hitting soon. So, Last thing here, though, is the game that I was saying, I think it's had me playing a little bit more like you, and it's because of the way the game is, right? Like a lot of the games you talk about are structured in a way where they don't have to be the sole focus of what you're doing. So PlayStation just released the new Hot Shots Golf, or everybody's golf Hot Shots, where they just took the two names across the world and shoved them together, kind of like Resident Evil did with 7. And I was like, it's been so long since I played Hot Shots. I haven't played since PS1. And the last golf game in general that I played was the traditional golf game, right? Because Curse to Golf fucking rips, and I love that game and played it recently. But the last time I played a game that was more like a 3D golf game was a PS2 game from, I think, Bandai or Namco, one of the two, before they merged. And it's called Swing Away Golf. My dad had it. And I remember loving it, but I was young. And so I downloaded, I was like, you know what? I have access to Hot Shots Golf on Vita. I would rather start there and see if I like it before I spend $40 on the new one, which glad it's $40 and it's a good price. I have gotten so damn addicted to this Vita version of this game. It's very fun. And the great thing is I can just have TV on while it's going. So we watched through, speaking of Peacock, after we got done with Twisted Metal, it started playing The Paper, and I was a fan of The Office, so I was willing to give it a try. So I'm just over here golfing away while The Paper's going, and we've been watching King of the Hill, and I'll just be golfing away on that. So it's taken me away from Lost Soul Aside a little bit, but I find that it's a game that I see has me playing the way that you talk about playing. Like it's not my sole focus. I'm into it, but I can look at the TV for a few minutes and go about my business, and then look back over and keep playing. The game's very fun. I like moving through the cast of characters. I like that you don't create your own characters because it motivates you to unlock new characters so that you can get new stat spreads, so that you can try new things out, new clubs and all that. I'm up to the Bronze League tournament for anybody who plays these games and knows what that is. I've made it through the Pro Tournament League, so I've completed 3 versus levels, and I'm on the 4th tier, and the game's getting a lot harder. But I'm really enjoying it, and I'm not surprised because it makes me feel exactly like I can remember feeling whenever I was playing Swing Away Golf on PS2 back in the day. And Swing Away was one of those games that was old enough to be a blueback PS2 game. Before that, when they were still CDs, before they had switched over to being DVDs. Yeah, I'm really enjoying the game, but I'm kind of enjoying the fact that I can do other things while I'm doing it, and it's not taking up all of my attention. And that allows me to effectively spend time with my wife in a way that's not hogging the TV. We can have something on the TV that's like a shared interest, and then I can still be doing that while she's crocheting. And it's just like a
shared
perfect.
We're just while he's walking Project Runway.
No, actually, we've been watching TV shows we've both been needing to catch up on, so I'm pretty happy about that. And she's crocheting herself a jacket. So
sorry, Drag Race. My bad.
Yeah. The Drag Runway Project Runway Drag Edition.
Oh, I'm sure they have that.
But what it actually is what it actually is them looking. It's like going over actual drag strips and drag racing cars. Mm-hmm. But just all done with like frilly fonts, and I'd be like, these cars are going somewhere fast.
2 cops in Lisbon, Portugal, investigate murders. This is NCIS Portugal.
Jesus. So yeah, I've been having a good time with that, and I was originally doing this as a trial, but then I started playing this and I was like, what the fuck is the new one doing that this one hasn't done? And since I haven't played this one, I'm getting my fix for free. Like I already have access to this game. I don't have to spend any more money. So yeah, we'll see where we go from there, but I'm surprised at how much I enjoy it, and I may still end up buying the new one just to be able to play the newer one. But here's the flip side of that. I've been having a fucking blast playing the Vita again, dude. It's like every time I pull this thing out, I'm just like, I know why I love you so much. Like you're just a great little machine. I love you.
That's what she said. Boom!
Yes. You last for hours. So Chris.
Yeah, but then you gotta get plugged in.
This is a crazy, this is a crazy aside, but it's just, the mod scene on Vita has been fucking nuts lately, and I didn't realize people doing ports for games. So I thought you should know. First of all, I always thought Hollow Knight should have been on Vita. Learned that apparently it was being developed for Vita, and they ended up canceling it in favor of the Switch version because of Nintendo partnering with them. And apparently, I think some of the files were left over in the PC version of the game. So someone just picked up and ported Hollow Knight to Vita.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, fucking sick. I haven't downloaded it yet, and you got to do this weird thing. So you have to provide the actual game file. So the easiest way to do it is to download the PC version and then move the game files in, and then it just repackages them for Vita and scales everything around. Someone's made Cuphead is fully playable on Vita as well.
Jesus.
Which is fucking cool. That's really awesome. There's a number of like relatively new games where I'm like, you got that shit going on here? That's kind of wild. And Cuphead looks really good. So yeah, there's more. I'll have to remember some of the other ones that were kind of blowing my mind, but there's quite a bit of stuff going on in the Vita scene. Someone's got Blasphemous working like most of the way. It's still got some issues, but it looks pretty good. They started actively working on a DS emulator for Vita, which would be pretty cool because I can finally play all the Pokemon games from DS that I enjoyed again without having to buy another DS because they have gone insane in price. So yeah, man, in the world of having a hacked Vita is just a fun time right now. It's always been. The Simpsons Hit and Run is fully ported, by the way, so you can play that on there. Max Payne, Bully, literally every PS2 Rockstar game is playable on there through a native port, which is pretty cool. So it's it's nice to see.
I gotta figure out because none of those apps work for me on my Vita, except the one that shall not be named is the only app that works. The other ones just don't do anything. So like I can't do any of the homebrews or the cool backgrounds. Like I used to have a Taylor Swift one that like it's saying red every time my Vita was open. It was really annoying, but it was cool for like that moment when you're like, oh, it's a Taylor Swift song and she's there. And then it's like, okay, this is the 50th time I've heard the first 3 seconds of this song. Like, come on.
It's starting to sound like fucking when's the shotgun barrel going to enter my mouth and pull the trigger? But yeah, that's interesting. You should definitely look into it and see if you end up. It might be that you have some plugins that you need to move around and change around.
Well, I think it was because I used so the Vita came modded. I didn't realize that when I bought it. So then I switched to my old memory card from my other Vita, and I think it fucked it all up. But they only sent me like a fucking 25 gig SD card. Like it's not my fault. You did this.
Yeah, you might just need to remod it from a fresh thing because it's not very hard to do. It's easier than it ever has been. It makes the time like when Vita Homebrew was brand new and getting it modded was like very difficult to do. I was there and I did it, but I ended up updating out of it because it just wasn't good enough. Like you could do GBA emulation and stuff. It was kind of cool. I was playing Metabots. What is that game called? It's like a arena brawler Metabots game on Game Boy Advance, which is fucking awesome. I love that game. But yeah, and I ended up updating out of it. And when I came back to it in like 2018 or 19, I was like, this shit's easy now. This is getting easier by the day. What's going on here? So yeah, I encourage you to do it. Sony don't seem to give a shit. And why should they? The Vita's not doing anything for them. If people are finding a way to keep your tech alive, that's only good for your brand because it makes people fall in love with Sony for different reasons, and that makes them a little more partial to you. So it's a smart thing to let people do. It doesn't impact anything. So have at it, as I like to say. Do your business. Yeah, and just make sure that you get all your games legally, and then you're fine.
Yeah, there's no other ways to get games on the Vita anymore.
Yeah, no, of course, everybody knows.
Unlock trophies more fully played.
Chris, real quick before we get into the first piece of news that you put on here, one of the things I wanted to slide in here because I thought it was interesting. I don't know how true this is. This is something that came out recently. I saw it in passing. Apparently, this has been published 3 days ago. Saw it in passing earlier today, and I thought, I'm not really surprised, but at the same time, it's in contrast to what's happened with the rest of the games that have moved over. So this is an article by The Gamer. I just went to the first one I could find referencing it again. And this article says, after years of constant will they, won't they, Gears of War finally made its way to PlayStation consoles via Gears of War Reloaded, yet another remaster of the original Gears of War, complete with multiplayer and enhanced visuals. In the lead up to its release, gamers on PlayStation 5 got to take part in Reloaded's beta, where they learn firsthand just how different the Gears of War experience is compared to, say, Call of Duty. However, the early enthusiasm apparently hasn't resulted in sales if numbers from an analytics firm are to be believed. So, according to an analytics firm, Gears of War on PlayStation is not selling in line with what we've seen from other Microsoft games moving over. The game has reached 1.3 million players, but it seems that approximately 300,000 copies is all that's been sold on Sony's console.
Wow. Yeah,
this is kind of interesting because I noticed my excitement for it went away. It wasn't even really excitement. I've played that game. I don't really care to play it again. And when there's so much other shit this year, playing another remaster of a game you've already remastered, like, you know what would have actually pushed me if this was a Gears trilogy and it was $70 with all three.
It's funny because
then I would.
The tweet that I saw was, I think it was Chris Reagan. He tweeted like, it's not selling because people didn't want Gears of War 1. They wanted the Marcus Phoenix collection. That would have done well. And, you know, I thought like it was anecdotal, and so I never really said much about it. But like when I did play Gears of War for a little bit, but I couldn't find a match.
During the beta, yeah, you hit the Discord and were like, I can't find anybody to play with. And I thought that was interesting.
Now, I've tried to play it a couple times, like especially on launch. I got into 2 games and just sat in lobbies. I'm like, this sucks. And I had crossplay on. It wasn't like I turned that off. So nobody was playing it. It's like, this is too bad.
And see, that depends on what you want out of it. Because here's the thing. Part of the reason I haven't jumped on it is because I do want the Marcus Phoenix collection. I want to play 1, 2, and I never played 3. I've beat 1, I've beat 2. I've never played 3. I don't know what the fuck happens at the end of this game. I would be willing to run through 1, 2, and 3 from a story perspective because I don't really care about playing online. I may try it, but that's not the pull for me. So yeah, it's like one of those things where even though I think this was it was reasonably priced too, wasn't it? Like $40. I think it was a budget game.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, which that's cool. That's a good thing. But the biggest issue is that even at $40, it's not enough of what I want. $40 is a hard sell for a game I've played before. That's like a 13-hour, if even that, shooter campaign with a multiplayer that apparently you have problems getting into games on.
Yeah. Well, so, you know, maybe I'm crazy, but like I don't know. I kind of wish this was just single player. Like, if you were going to do multiplayer, why didn't you release Gears 5, like the newest one? Like, why am I playing Gears 1 multiplayer? Why am I playing objectively the worst version of Gears multiplayer?
My assumption is that they had the feeling that nostalgia would be there and people would want to flood back to it, like we've seen people do where whenever they reopened all of the Call of Duty PlayStation 3 and 360 servers and whatnot, that people just flooded back to those games. And
yeah, but
I think there's reason, but at the same time, even at its height, Gears of War was never Call of Duty fucking 4. You know what I mean? Like, it honestly, was never Modern Warfare 2.
I'm thinking about it. My bet is just that this port is probably lazier than we think it is. And the only reason it has multiplayer is that the version they copied over has multiplayer.
Yeah, so because if I'm not mistaken, the original Gears of War, I don't know if it was called Reloaded or what, but Gears of War Remastered that they came out with on Xbox One and PC, Ultimate Edition, I'm pretty sure that had multiplayer back in. And since all you did was slap more like a fresher coat of paint on this remaster you've already done, you're probably right. Mm-hmm. And so insofar as that is, they're probably not worried about it selling crazy. 1.3 million may be fine, and then it's Game Pass fodder in the other way, right? It's something to throw up and say, hey, here's a new Game Pass title. But it is interesting to me that this is just generally speaking. So this is a 7-hour campaign. I didn't think it was that long. Yeah, I don't know. This was just weird. And I think it was worth mentioning that what we've seen recently for these games coming over is that they come over and they sell big. Forza was a huge success. Even Indiana Jones was a big splash, moment. And this just hasn't seemed to be able to copy that success. Grounded did really well when it came over. I mean, they have quite a history. I don't know. I didn't look. I haven't seen much on Senua's Sacrifice or whatever, Senua's Saga. Did it end up selling well on PS5?
I'm not sure.
What we might be honestly seeing is okay. It's too soon. It was August, so we just don't. apparently have it yet. But what's interesting about that is like, if we get information from Senua's Saga, which also that was kind of a iffy sequel for a lot of people, it was divisive. So that could be a factor as well. But what we might also be seeing is just the wow factor of Xbox games being on PlayStation might start being to die down, where like they'll do fine, but it kind of looks reminiscent to what we saw from PlayStation, where PlayStation started releasing games on PC, and at first they were all selling better and better and better, and then God of War came out and sold better than anything else had, and now every game that Sony releases on PC kind of just comes out, sells a little bit, and then kind of goes away. Like people aren't really talking about it anymore. So it might just be that excitement of playing a game on the Forbidden system is worked its way through, and now it's like, oh, it's another one.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happened on PC. Days Gone also The Last of Us, as Colin loves to talk about. So it's just novelty at some point too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, of course, the better game will probably still tend to win out in the general scheme, but or at least a better game for the player sensibilities. I think Days Gone is a bit more of a PC-friendly title, if I'm being real, than what people who tend to play on PC are looking for in comparison to The Last of Us 2, you know? So
absolutely.
Let it be what it is. All right, first piece of big news we have on here is is about EVO. So a major shakeup has taken place in the ownership of the Evolution Championship Series, EVO, the world's longest running and most prestigious fighting game tournament. I'm going to probably butcher this name, but I'm going to say Qiddiya. Qiddiya. Anyway, a Saudi government-backed mega project under the country's public investment fund has fully acquired RTS, the co-owner and organizer of EVO. This effectively makes Qiddiya a co-owner of the tournament alongside Nodwin Gaming, who recently purchased Sony Interactive Entertainment's stake in EVO. Qiddiya's chief strategy officer, Mohammed Aldawood, hailed the acquisition as a strategic move to bolster their esports ambitions and, quote, fuel the continued growth of EVO, end quote, citing the tournament's unlimited potential to reach new heights. Though EVO's day-to-day operations will remain under the guidance of General Manager Rick Thayer and his team, the structural shift has sparked controversy. Many in the fighting game community see it as another example of sports washing, given Qiddiya's close ties to the Saudi government and its history of using high-profile entertainment investments to polish its international image amid ongoing human rights criticisms. Yeah, the general look, at least as an American, I think when you generally look at the Saudi government, perception of the Saudi government is just low for Americans for a number of reasons. I think it's somewhat. Agree, yeah. I think whether or not I think it's somewhat indoctrinated in this, whether or not it's deserved or not. I think it's just over time and growing up, you hear about this forever and you remember all the wars. And one of the things that happens here too is that it doesn't really matter what war happened. Anybody thinks the Middle East is just a giant monolith to a lot of people. Therefore, the crimes of one are just the crimes of another, and so it doesn't really matter why anybody feels the way they do. But we do, of course, I think one of the big reasons that we feel that is Americans, along with a bunch of other countries, kind of view some of the human rights things going on in those countries to be problematic. And then you have this kind of thing where it's like, yeah, but now things that we enjoy are being taken over by essentially a government, which is like one of the big pushes that was happening when people were worried about whether or not Tencent had ties to the Chinese government and their continued acquisitions of everything, right? That was happening as well. And I think that they're good questions, because I think generally speaking, again, maybe it's because of indoctrination, maybe it's because it's somewhat deserved. There is just an inherent feeling for a lot of Americans, and maybe even people outside of America, where it doesn't feel like the government should be involved in gaming to this degree, like in any industry. I don't want the government that involved in Hollywood or the music industry or anything, right? Like it feels like it runs the risk of someone somewhere going, that game that could have happened, that could have been this way, is no longer going to happen because we, a Saudi company, own it, and we don't like the things you're trying to put in your game, therefore we're cutting the project. Whether or not that's actually going to happen or whether or not they care, because it could be more about money. Sometimes people say one thing and the money speaks another way. But what do you think here, Chris?
I mean, I can't say much more about the politics of it. You said all I could echo. In terms of Evo, I guess I'm a little surprised they sold it, because to me, the fight stick that they're doing and Marvel Tokon seems like something you do as a company that owns the biggest fighting game tournament.
It surprised me when they sold too. Now that was before even this, but still.
Yeah. So to me,
now,
it's
just so anyone who
that,
doesn't know, PlayStation is the essentially the preferred partner or whatever. There's a continuation through the end of 2026, if I remember correctly, where PlayStation is essentially synonymous with Evo, even though they no longer own it. Just to throw that out there, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't know, in terms of being sold to them, like, it's too bad. I don't know. I think as a consumer, like, I don't know, if you want to vote with your wallet, vote with your wallet. I don't run across like Evo or like even SNK all that often.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's one of these like, well, you didn't really mess with me at all, so, you know, whatever kind of thing.
No, you haven't tainted my pool, and that's kind of how I feel about it too, right?
Exactly. So,
yeah,
you know, the day that, you know, the Saudis publish Fallout 3 remastered, we're gonna have a conversation, and I'm still gonna buy it. But, you know,
which
that's
there is something to be
so
said about, and I honestly agree with you. I think this is true of me as well, because like you have only so much time, only so much bandwidth, only so many responsibilities you can juggle. But there is something to be said about immediately when it touches something that affects you directly, everybody suddenly has time for it. And, you know, to some degree, I kind of think there might be a real value in sometimes looking at something and going, this is not good. And maybe we should try and be as vocal as we can to stop this from spreading further. Because in a way, it's like, it's almost like the way America does roads. Do you want to be proactive or reactive? And that's essentially what we're going through right now. Because we can make this a bigger deal right now. We can make every time that the Saudi thing does anything, we can make it a bigger deal and vote with our wallets and push back. And that would be proactive. We would be actively saying like, hey, we don't want you involved. Or we could be reactive. But the problem with being reactive is that there's way more work to undo what's already being done than there is to be like, we're actively not supporting you, we want to push you out. It's an interesting dichotomy to be in.
I don't know. With politics and really just kind of everything in life, I just tend to be on the side of like, I probably don't know enough, and, you know, whatever. Like,
I say that all the time.
I'd love to, you know, and for me, there's a lot of like, you know, I'm someone, and I think a lot of people are like, they'll boycott something if it's easy, you know? Sure. And that's the thing. It's like, even with Israel Palestine, like, it's really easy for me to go, I'm boycotting Starbucks because they support Israel, but Google supports Israel too. I don't know what you expect me to do. You know what I mean? So like, there's only so many commitments that I make. So either way, I'm not going to watch Evo regardless. So this is super easy for me to be like, yeah, boycott Evo. Like, I'm not going to watch it.
And this is kind of like the good and bad of the internet, right? Because the reality is that for a long time, we didn't have the ability to be outraged about every single thing, realistically. And now it's like we have access to so much information. And like you said, I can't dedicate myself to opposing every single thing that I don't like happening in every single company that has even the smallest hand in something that I may not agree with. You really just have to pick the battles that you find important and go about it. I wish it weren't that way, but you know, that's how it's literally. Up until the internet, you chose the battles that you even understood and had access to. Now we have access to so many. There's no way for you to fight every battle. No one can. Mm-hmm. That's why it's a good thing that at least there's so many different interests and passions, because at least you can hope that everything gets quelled reasonably by the group of people who are passionate about that thing that they do understand and push toward. As with all things, for anybody who thinks they're on the side of the thing that they do understand, there's someone on the other side where they claim to understand and they have the complete opposite opinion. And I can't tell you which one of those is too right, because the reality for most things is that there's probably a little bit of both, right? And it's just which one are you more emotionally attached to? I think that's really what it is for a lot of people, for a lot of things. So, but this one, it just depends. Like, how much do you want to feel like you see a government that you don't agree with pushing forward? And it'll be interesting to see how people vote with their wallet, because I think one of the things we say often is that kind of like what I said with you, right? Like the pie didn't make you pull away from KCD2. Well, the reality is that if the Saudi company doesn't make you pull away from Evo in your fighting game tournaments, then it just doesn't matter. You care more about the fighting thing than you do about the Saudi government. And that's, at the end of the day, I'm not going to say you're wrong for that. You fucking like what you like. If you work hard and you like to spend your time doing fighting game tournaments, who am I to say that you shouldn't be able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a rough position to be in. So do what you can. As we always say, vote with your wallet if you feel it. If it's something that you feel like you're passionate about, go do it, man. That's what I say. I bought Lost Soul Aside, and I told my wife before I even started, I said, yeah, I'm a little worried this game might not be good enough for me to want to finish it. But at the end of the day, I don't feel bad, because at least I gave $70 or $60 to a dude who was trying to make his dream come true and did a lot as a first time game. Like, it just feels good to support it. Doesn't mean the game had to be good, but you make your little decisions and you go on about your life and feel good about what you can, and try not to feel bad about everything that you can't control and go on. So speaking of things that people may or may not be able to control, Capcom have got some choice words. So Capcom president Haruhiro Sugimoto has attributed the disappointing post-launch sales of Monster Hunter Wilds to what he calls an, quote, unexpectedly large, end quote, barrier, namely the steep total cost associated with purchasing and playing on a PlayStation 5. Worth noting, I think that this is... The articles that I've all seen for this have specifically said PS5, because I think he said it, and I think that's because it is the primary console, and this is a console-only game. Everything that's being said here equally goes for the Xbox, if we're just being honest, because this game's on Xbox. They cost pretty similar price. Anyway, in a recent interview with Nikkei, Sugimoto explained that the PS5 console alone cost around 80,000 yen, and when combined with the game, accessories, and online subscriptions, the total investment can reach approximately 100,000 yen, a sum that many, particularly younger gamers, are finding hard to afford, both in Japan and abroad. Despite its strong debut with record-breaking initial sales and over 10 million copies sold by the end of March, Monster Hunter Wilds has seen sales fall sharply, with only 477,000 additional units sold from April to June. Capcom has labeled that performance, quote, soft in its financial report. Sugimoto also pointed to the success of the Nintendo Switch 2, which launched in June at a more wallet-friendly price of 49,980 yen, as evidence of how price sensitivity remains a key driver in consumer decisions. The positive reception to Switch 2's pricing suggests affordability is still a top concern for gamers. I want to note something here that's important, because this article did come from Japan. That 49,000 yen, if I'm not mistaken, is a Japan-only version of the game, of the system, the Switch 2, that is cheaper and region-locked.
Oh,
and if you get one that's unregion-locked, it goes up by, I think, about 20,000 yen, to where it's only about 20,000 yen under the PlayStation 5, which puts it around the same gap between the Switch 2's $400 that we already have and the PlayStation 5's $500 for the lowest, or whatever it is, right? Because wasn't the Switch 2 $400, or was it $350 and only $400 for the bundle?
The Switch 2?
Yeah.
It was $450
with the bundle,
and $500.
That's what oh God. Then how is that even price friendly? Because I remember the conversation around it, even for me, was the Switch 2 is going to do a lot to feel like it's worth it. And of course, I spent the money on it because I had the disposable income. But I have yet to feel, even at that point, even if it being $400, I still have a hard time looking at that and going, I see the value here,
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's
a rough thing.
I feel that.
Now, here's the thing. This year, I've seen like price. I've noticed price on everything going up and higher. So I don't think Nintendo's necessarily to blame there. But I think we're kind of just in a thing where even the Switch's $100 price difference in the West, I don't think is a big enough motivating factor that would stop any of this. That's the interesting thing. I think Switch 2's biggest upside they have right now is that online play is still free, if I'm not mistaken. You don't have to have, or do you? I didn't even think about it. You still have to have online for Switch to play. It's just considerably cheaper.
Yeah, it's like $20 a month for the base online thing.
I think it's like $30 a year for the base. I think it's not even per month.
That's what
like,
I meant. Yeah, it's
pretty low. Yeah. So I don't know. This is interesting because I do think one of the important things to note here is one of the biggest problems that has been happening with consoles in general, which is that younger gamers are moving away from consoles and moving to PC. Now, PCs can be more money up front, lower money throughout the long-term investment, where consoles are a little bit more money long-term, but usually a little cheaper up front, price to performance ratio. But a lot of the youth have been moving off from consoles and going to PC. Also, sometimes just because of the games that are getting popular. But some of that might also have to do with the fact that getting a console is like trying to convince my mom to buy me a PS3 in 2007. That shit was rough. We didn't make that kind of money. I remember being genuinely blown away when my mom actually was like, I did get you a PlayStation 3. And she gave it to me a week early because she knew that I was like, I really want to play Resistance. And I didn't even know I had it. I wouldn't shut the fuck up about Resistance looks really cool, Mom. This game looks really sweet. And then she was like, well, I did get you a PlayStation. Fuck yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man, because like you got to go back to like when you were young, right? So like consider yourself, even if you're at a point where I think there's two sides, right? If you're at the point where your parents are buying it for you, or if you're even at the price where you have money to spend on your own, but you're limited because of other responsibilities, I can see why in general people are going. But I think it's interesting to couple this by saying that Monster Hunter Worlds is the thing suffering. I get that it's suffering in relation to the fact that consoles just aren't selling as much. But I don't know that that's entirely right either, because if you really look at console sales across the entire generation so far, they seem about in line with last generations, even though they're more expensive. So as much as I can sympathize with what he's saying, and I think there's a lot of truth in what he's saying, and there's things that we should be careful and consider and that are going to impact the game industry, I think what's really happening is that the online space and the forever games are far more competitive than they were when World came out. And regardless of what's said, I think there's just less interest in Monster Hunter Wilds than there was Monster Hunter Worlds as a long-term platform game.
Yeah.
What do you kind of think here? Because we always talk, you've had a bigger history of playing forever games than I have. But this doesn't strike me as anything other than if just as many consoles are being sold, but Monster Hunter's not selling. It's not an issue there because last generation you still had PS Plus.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, I read it as just excuse making to a degree. Like, from what I understand of people who talk about that game, it's unoptimized and there's no post-launch content. So it's like, what are people getting invested for? You know. Yeah,
I know there was intention for post-launch content, and I kind of did. I didn't beat this game. I kind of just fell off of it, and I couldn't even explain why. I was playing with people and having a decent time with it, but I just got over it very quickly, which is interesting because like I didn't play Monster Hunter Rise until 2 or 3 years ago, and I played the shit out of it and beat it. My want to beat Monster Hunter Wilds was, by the time I was playing it, was less than that.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I don't know, man. This does seem like, and look, this is clearly a factor. If there were more PlayStations out there, even though they're selling pretty much in line, but if there were more, then yeah, of course you'd have more copies sold. But that's just because your percentage of the same thing is kind of going over that. I don't know. This just strikes me as an interesting thing to points in on, because did this game also not release on PC day one? I thought it did.
I think it did.
Yeah. So if it didn't even have to, which that might be part of it, Monster Hunter Worlds had a thing where it had to come out on PC later. Therefore, it had a second sales wind for people that didn't get to play it. This launching all at once means it broke records immediately, but then it never had a second wind of interest. And so it just all goes down, because there is something to be said. Having to wait for the game to release on PC and then being crossplay, if I'm not mistaken, meant that people who played originally are coming back to the game, and then more people are buying it because people are coming back, and you just have this overall second wind, and you don't have it here. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this game continues to go. I think that we've seen that Capcom has a little bit of a tendency to put too much stock in individual IP and try and push them to maximize themselves. And that's a great thing, and it usually can work. But as we've seen with Xbox and Sony and everybody at some point in their careers, over-relying on a few IP can quickly hit you to a point where you're not meeting sales targets. So we'll see how things continue to go from there. Chris,
Brett,
last thing I think we're going to talk about here is the PlayStation 6. Sony is reportedly developing a handheld version of the PlayStation 6 featuring Nintendo Switch-style docking capabilities. According to a report from Moore's Law is Dead, a reliable hardware leaker with a strong track record for accurate PlayStation information. What's being rumored here is a hybrid design. This portable device, codenamed Canis, is expected to offer true handheld functionality with the added ability to dock to a TV, similar to the Switch. Remarkably, when docked, it is rumored to run at a higher performance, exceeding what a base PS5 can deliver. Hardware spec-wise, the device is said to be powered by an AMD system-on-chip, SoC as you may know them, featuring 4 Zen 6C cores, 2 Zen 6 low-power cores, and an RDNA 5 GPU with 16 compute units. Its GPU clock speed is speculated to increase from approximately 1.2 gigahertz in handheld mode to 1.65 gigahertz when docked, enabling higher resolution output. Pricing and marketing position-wise, there's speculation that the handheld could launch for around $500, aiming to compete directly with Nintendo Switch 2. However, this figure remains tentative given Sony's history of higher pricing. And lastly, it will be a complement to the PS6 home console. The portable is expected to be released alongside a traditional, more powerful PlayStation 6 home console. Internally, documents reportedly reference both variants as part of a unified next-gen strategy. This is really interesting because the Switch in many ways is kind of what Sony kind of backed out on. One of the things that anybody who was kind of around back then may have remembered is when they were first showing off NGP, when Vita was still called Next Gen Portable, it had an HDMI jack, because the idea was that they wanted everybody to be able to have it hook up to a TV and play out. But in order to cut cost and try and be competitive to the DS, the 3DS, which had come out and was also $249 at launch like the Vita was, they decided to scrap that feature. But all of the dev kits that were going out for the thing still had it on there. And so there is a irony that Switch comes out, 6 years down the line and just does the same thing. And then people are like, this shit slaps. I love this. But also PSP did this. PSP had it. The PSP 2000 and 3000 let you hook up component cables to play it on an HD TV. So I'm not surprised by this. And one of the things that's kind of been going around as I've been reinvigorated by PS Vita and spending a little time looking at it is seeing the kind of comment sections of Reddit posts and everything kind of being like, if Sony makes another hardware, they need to make something like the Vita with bespoke games that are paying attention to the handheld form, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I agree in terms of my preference, but for every one of those comments there's a response, which I also agree with, which is that's just never going to happen. The handheld market has been specifically reinvigorated because of the ability to play your library in one spot. It's why everybody's on the Steam Deck. It's why everybody likes the Switch, because you can play the same games on the go that you're playing and at home, and you don't have to buy them separately. You don't have to worry about anything. You can use it as a tool to keep playing more of your game that you were already playing just on the go. And I get it. I get the appeal. And that's also why handhelds are so damn big these days, because that's what everyone's trying to play console games on them. So this feels like the right call. What is surprising, if it's going to be this powerful, if Sony really is aiming for a $500 piece of hardware, that's vastly different to what we're even seeing right now with all the tariffs going on, where they're cutting hard drive size to not change price, or they're changing price in some markets and keeping the hard drive size. This $500 thing, and I'm glad that it specifically says remains tentative and don't put too much stock in it. That seems unlike Sony, and it seems unlike the market right now. If even Nintendo can't get the Switch under $400, $450, whatever it is, I don't see any hope for something that's supposed to be this much more powerful coming in at that price point. What do you think, Chris?
I don't know. I guess it's hard for me to talk about it because I've listened to a bunch of stuff outside of this, but to me it sounds like the way they're talking about it is just because the advancing technology just has made everything cheaper, I guess. That was kind of what he was saying.
I kind of get that, but then why is Switch 2 not cheaper then? You know?
Because it doesn't have
Switch
to be.
2 is not even as powerful as this is claiming to be, right?
No, but I do think there's a compelling... Like, I guess what we're going to find out is what wins. And I think the lesson that Sony might have taken from the PS5 generation is that power doesn't matter. If they can get a console that does 4K 120, right? And that's it. What do we really need more than that? So the question is, like, if I can, like, let's say that Xbox wins the power war, because the reality is they probably will. They're making a PC, they're not making a console, right? That's the general sense of the rumors.
Like it, yeah.
So if Sony just looks at it and goes, we're gonna make something that hits 4K 120, 4K 120 max, 4K 60, everything, no matter what. If that's their goal, I have to imagine you can get that in a price where people buy it. And the thing is, like, if that's what you can promise, this entire generation, everything's hitting 4K 60. That's what this is built for. If you can run it, 4K 120, perfect. If they can do that and then price the PS6 at $499 and then price Canis at $399.
Well, see, that's the interesting thing.
Feel like
right now they're saying that the handheld will be $500, and that makes more sense to me than coming in at $400. Because I'm with you, right? Like, you're talking 4K 120, 4K 60 minimum on everything. I think I generally agree, because one of the things we've seen this generation is it doesn't even matter that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox can hit 4K 60. They can. The thing is that for whatever reason, games being developed are not hitting that. Games being developed are running at sub-native resolutions to hit 60 frames per second. Sometimes they're running at sub-native resolutions to hit 30 frames per second, right? We've seen image quality look rough this generation, where even if a game says it's 4K 60, you're like, why does this look so damn muddy then? And you're kind of going through that, right? And that's one of the cool things about Pro it stops at. But I'm with you on the PS6, but I think what's interesting about, like, a handheld, even if it's trying to be more powerful than the Switch, I still think the way I would probably aim to do that would be at max a 1440p screen, but I'd honestly probably do a Switch did 1080p. Unless you're going to make a massive screen handheld, you're not going to notice a huge difference between a 1080p screen and a 1440p screen at that size. And so at that point, 1080p, like, to your point, right? If you're trying to make it to where you span the difference between the two, right? It would make sense that you want all the PS4 game or all the PS6 games to just be able to run at 1080p 60 frames per second. If that handheld can do that, that's cool.
I mean, and I'm not a wizard, so I don't know the answers to what I'm about to say. But like, I would have to think that if a game runs at 4K 60 on the more powerful PS6, it can run at 1080 60 on the less powerful
Canis or whatever the hell it's going to
Canis. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess I think people might be disappointed because people want to see, right, the modern day version of wrestler's hair, right? Because when I was growing up listening to people talk about video games, it was always, you could tell how graphics got better because the wrestlers' hairs got better and WWE games, right? So I think people want to see that, right? They want to see Death Stranding 2 and go, holy shit, that's a video game, right?
Yeah.
But I think that I honestly, at this point, I think that's a better business decision to go, we're not the most powerful console, but we give you exactly what you need. And by the way, because we're not the most powerful console, you can get a handheld and the PlayStation 6 for $1,000. And then you go and you look at Best Buy and you go, the Xbox ROG Ally is $1,000.
Dude, when they price those, I could not believe it.
It's insane.
Even and it tells me what I need to know. It tells me everything. And don't get me wrong, it's a lot more powerful than the Steam Deck, spec-wise. Whether or not we're going to see that power come out in a way that you feel a difference on in handheld, it's going to be a bigger question. But I think it does a lot because, people are talking about Sony pushing price with the Pro. I think Microsoft showed how willing they are to push price with the ROG Ally. And I know that that's a partnership and it may be somewhat of what's going on with Asus as well. But if we're being real to what's going, I think Microsoft is trying to go ahead and tell you, and they've been saying for years on this thing, like, we're aiming for the most powerful generational leap you've ever seen. And there's all these rumors that point to it being something far more PC-like. It sounds like what you're saying. We're basically making a PC and streamlining the operating system to where you don't know that it's a PC because we've simplified everything for you. And you know what? I think that's actually a compelling thing to do. But it's going to be pricey.
Right. And I think if you're looking at, again, you go to Best Buy, they both come out. This is like 50 Cent and Kanye West. And you're trying to decide who's going to sell more on week one. How do you beat 1,000 for a PS6 handheld and a PS6 versus, let's say, 1,500 for an Xbox, or even 800 for just the Xbox? I think it's a hard to beat that argument of, well, I guess I'm getting the PS6. And the fact that people aren't going to think about is, like, think about Xbox's position right now, right? People are going to build towards the PS6.
Yeah.
And you can make the argument about holding the industry back, but I don't know. I think once you hit 4K 60, what are you going for? Like, what are you trying to get more than that?
Well, and I think the thing that's holding the industry back is not power anymore.
Yeah, but I think when you're talking about a PS6, we're not talking about a PS5 with slightly better chips. We're talking about a next-gen console that may just not be the most powerful thing in the world. So it's not like you're going to be using old hardware. You're still getting a new console, but I just think toning back exactly what you're going for to lower the price to proliferate the thing is a good plan. And then you do a PS5 Pro, a PS6 Pro for $800.
It's the 360 market method, which is come in under everyone else. If you can even come in before everyone else, come in before Microsoft if you're still worried about that. Bonnie Blue, is that who said that?
A lot.
A lot. But see, the thing there is that I think that this clearly points to a picture of Sony still having, and this is sensible. I think Sony still clearly wants to be more powerful than Nintendo because they still want to differentiate themselves, because even though they don't view Nintendo as competition in the same way that they did Microsoft for a long time, because Nintendo just plays at a different tier because they focus on making things differently. So Sony still wants to keep that definitional difference between the two, while Nintendo's also tried to actually make a jump with the Switch 2 in some capacity. And so with all that in there, I think you're right. Trying to go the PS3 route again just to try and outdo what Xbox is seemingly working on just doesn't seem like a sensible thing to do. So I think, I don't know, $1,000 may be a little. I would love to see that. I would love to see PS6 be 500 and the handheld be 500. And it's just, they do two different things, but they complement each other really well. I think that's a great move. And it kind of does the thing where it's like, pick your poison. Buy the one that you primarily want to play at home, or buy the one that's not as powerful, but you can still play it at home, or you can play it on the go.
Yeah.
And then the obvious thing would be if you have the PS6 Canis or whatever the fuck we're calling this, right? PS6 portable, then I think that there'd be a thing to go, if you have the right Wi-Fi to do it, you can just stream your native PS5 to it if you still want higher everything else. Again, that depends on how good streaming continues to go. But it's something to consider. It's a possibility that they can go through if streaming does get to a point where it can handle that kind of stuff. Because I don't know, man. I don't expect to see another Portal, for being real. Even though the Portal was a surprise, I think that all the Portal was, oh, that's a surprise. This is doing way better than we thought, which means that there is a hunger for handheld PlayStation gaming. Therefore, we just need to make an actual PlayStation handheld. But it will be interesting to see if part of the reason the Portal did okay is because it was $200. Whereas this full-fledged thing is going to be a lot more money. But there's also the idea of meeting the consumers where they're at. And if you have a lot of consumers that are like, I like PlayStation, but I'm wanting to move to something that will allow me to play on the go, and PlayStation doesn't have an option, then they'll just leave. If they at least give an option, then you may hold on to customers you could have lost who don't care about the power anymore. Like you said, they care about the versatility.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a hard thing, but I just think at a certain point, if they can get it that cheap, like remember the Xbox Series S is the best-selling Xbox of the two, so people are going to.
Has that continued to be the case? Because I know for a long time it was.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if it ever shifted.
Well, I mean, there's rumors they're not even making X's anymore, so yeah, I think it is. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. Like it's funny. It's not funny, but it's interesting, and time sneaks up on you now that we're talking about the PS6. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's weird that we're in the point of this generation already where we're just kind of having these discussions anyway, just because I guess it's the illusion of aging. It seems like we shouldn't be here. I think part of that is because this has been a whole generation year-wise. Like we're getting close to that. Like next year's 6 years. That's pretty deep in. But I don't feel like we've had 6 years of exclusives like we had on PlayStation 2, 3, 4, and I think that the perception of it, regardless of the reasoning behind it or why, is just this hasn't felt like a generation in the same way that the previous generations have. For better and worse.
Well, I think the thing is, I think this generation is what we need to expect, where it's incremental upgrades. I think part of this is we're going to see PS4, PS5, PS6 games. And I think that's just a reality we're going to have to accept.
I'm going to be really curious if that's the case. I'm not saying I completely disagree, but here's what I will say. I will not be surprised if by the time we hit PS7, we see PS5, PS6, PS7 games. The PS4, its biggest upsides is it's still x86. But since 5 seems to have been made with the intention of moving forward this way and cross-sharing, I can see 5 holding on for a lot longer. I'll be curious to see if we get a PS4, PS6 game. All the way across the 3.
I guess I should be clear. I'm not necessarily talking about... Right? That's what I was going to say. Like, I could see Hollow Knight Dick Butt being a PS4, PS5, PS6 game, or like Slay the Spire 2 is a PS6, PS5, PS4 game. Like I see, because there's going to be games where it's like, it can, if it can run on a Steam Deck, it can run on a PS4, and people are still going to be making Steam Deck games when the PS6 is out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you put it out there and then give us 3 platinums to get? Days Gone remastered.
I have been waiting for them to realize that, and I get why they don't do it because it's one SKU that just works across the 3. But go back to your old school PS3, PS Vita cross-buy thing and just have it be cool. Have your PS4, PS5, and PS6 version all be. You buy one and you're entitled to all 3, but they're 3 non-stacked trophy lists.
Dude, could you imagine if there was a game with a PS4, PS5, PS6, and PS6 Canis platinum trophy? Oh
God, like the Canis has its own bespoke trophies. That would be,
and
that'd be rough.
They're all auto pops. See, that's the problem. You can't allow
No,
the
you can't
auto
auto pop. No, you can't. You can't.
because I don't mind the one time, but if you're climbing up 4, 5 platinum trophies off one, and it's like
just because you happen to have all the consoles.
yeah, and it's like, oh shit, like I did the PS4 version, and now I can pop the PS5, PS6, and the Canis version. Sick, fuck you. You're doing too much. You got to play it at least one more time. I think for every auto pop, you got to play the game once. I think that's got to be. I'm putting it out there now. That is trophy law. You have you can if you beat the game once, you can
free
auto pop
per play.
but you have to beat it again to auto pop a second or a third time. That's how it has to go. 4 trophies, 2 playlists.
I genuinely don't even know how you'd control that though.
It's called honor, dude. What is wrong?
Yeah, I got you. Trophy law is just strictly saying, like, as an honorable partaker of trophy hunting.
Yeah,
this is the minimum.
It's like how everyone in our Discord who's playing in the trophy competition has the honor not to post their 10-minute platinums when they get them. Because every person who's in this competition, I haven't looked, but I'm positive, has at least one 10-minute platinum. But you don't post a rattle like a game in the Discord.
Oh, it depends on the game. Like Siberian was a cool game. Took a few hours, you know.
Yeah, I guess. But
that doesn't feel that different from like a Life is Strange, if I'm being honest, you know.
I don't know why it does. There was one I got this platinum in a game. It was called like Spark Level or something that. And it was literally I need to be clear. I didn't buy this game for trophies. I bought this game because it was 9 cents. And I was in party chat. I was in party chat with Ben and Sean. And I'm like, what could this possibly be for 9 cents? And then as I started playing with it, and this is a little sad, but as I started playing it, I said in the party chat, I will have this platinum in 5 minutes. 2 minutes later, the platinum popped, and I was like, all right, bad. It's a decent 9 cents. Terrible game. I don't really know how you play it, but it was a good experience. A fun bonding experience.
What's wild is that one of my it's don't wrong, stupid game, and I don't recommend it from a do you want to play like a great game, but my wife looking through the store with me and then seeing Deer Simulator and being like, it was on sale as well. It was super cheap. And it was just, we watched the trailer and we were like, what the fuck did I just watch? And then it was just like, you got to try it. Honestly, one of the best listening to my wife in that moment is one of the best decisions I've made all year.
I love that.
I had like a fun as shit 5 hours.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. It's like any game can be fun with the right audience.
That's also true. It was partially because like it was I can't remember. I think my daughter was at church. It was like a date night that we decided to stay in because I think one of us wasn't feeling well or something. Anyway, so we're back on the couch. We're doing that. I'm playing this, and then my daughter comes in after we've been playing for like 2.5 hours already. And my wife's just like, Kyrie, look at this. And then I made the little like deer-headed Megazord thing, and Kyrie's like, what? And it was like one arm is like a dog and one is like a car, and she's like, what the fuck am I looking at? My daughter didn't say what the fuck, but the look on her face was like, so worth it. I had a great time.
I love that. Yeah, dude, so some of the most fun is shit I just randomly started playing.
Yeah, I have a very different respect for someone who gets a platinum for a game that's really not great, but because they were just having like, basically if the whole point of it was just hopping in for a few hours and having like we're having a viewing party of The Room, that's a good time. And that's a well-deserved and earned platinum. You know what I mean?
You know what we should do? We should set some Patreon goal or some kind of goal for the podcast, and then me and you should stream back to back. We got to take time off for this. So we got to make the goal right. We stream back to back Mind's Eye, Lord of the Ring Gollum, King Kong Skull Island, and Walking Dead Destinies. And we can throw Lost Soul aside in there, and that's just what we do is we stream the worst games we can. We get to platinum in all of them.
Oh, fuck. Lost Soul Side is going to be brutal. You have to beat the game on the hardest difficulty all the way through.
Lost Soul Side is not that bad.
It's also not that bad,
It's not that bad. We got enough. I have the games. We can even put in the Concord disc. And just put it.
I was about to say, I wonder if by then, is there someone crazy enough to do? I haven't looked super far into this, by the way. I'm gonna probably say it's probably not possible, but there are private servers for Killzone Mercenary. I don't know if that means you can get. I don't know if that means that the trophy that you needed to go, because it was veteran, right? You needed to get the fucking card. It was the ace card. Yeah,
and I got a king on the last day.
I don't know if the ace is. I don't know if the card system works, but if it does on this private server, it might be worth you hopping in and getting this otherwise unobtainable platinum. It's worth doing a little bit of digging into.
Okay,
but is there someone crazy enough? Because technically, the disc have the data on there. Has someone made a Concord custom private server?
I wish.
I almost want to Google it. I'm
Googling it right now.
Where are we at? Did someone just go, no, that's my fucking game?
No. Oh, someone said, is it too early to suggest private servers?
Jesus. Get a Second Life as a free private server game.
Dude, I haven't cracked that case because it's brand new wrapped up. But I kind of want to crack the case and see what happens if I put it in. I'm wondering, will it come up with Concord and install something, or is it just going to say unreadable disk?
No. I guarantee you, it will install the game and everything, and then when you go to boot it, it will just boot, and it'll loop saying it can't find anything and it can't connect because there's nothing for it to connect to. Because you can't get away from the fact that the data's there. The data's on the disk. The PlayStation can't suddenly reject that data. It's not made that way.
Yeah.
So it'll install.
Some mechanism in place, like with PT, where it's can't even touch it ever again.
PT was only available digitally, right? So
True.
Digital copies can't, because the files don't exist for you to download anymore, right? But if you had the game already on your system, I don't think it did anything else. It was like PT. They can't stop you from playing it because it's already.
I wonder if
your
the
system
file
has
size.
the file.
Do you think it's 100 gigs, or do you think it's 2 gigs that it actually installs, and it's the game's dead, bro? Put it back in the case, send it to Sony, burn the copy.
I don't know. I'm really curious as to how this would go.
I'm not doing it because it's unwrapped. Maybe I'll buy another one, because I do kind of want to have a couple copies of that.
So, of course, I don't know how to go about developing custom servers. I don't know how that happens. I don't know the process that goes about it. Someone on this thing says that the server-side data packets that would be needed are likely gone, deleted, non-existent. So it seems unlikely. So I guess that means that somehow, some way, if someone was able to pull something that gave the data, because that means Killzone, someone has to have the server data that they needed for that in order to come up. So you would need to code the server-side packets from scratch, is what someone's basically saying. That if we live in a world where Concord ends up being a successful free-to-play private server game, of course, no money, but if people just enjoy it, that's going to be a fucking crazy world.
That would be hilarious, dude. I would love that.
Holy shit. Man. Okay. Well, this is the world we live in now. Guys, if you want to support us on Patreon, head over to patreon.com/Nartech and give as little as $1 per month, like a lot of our listeners have. We appreciate those who do. As a thank you for those who do so, we like to shout them out at the end of every episode as a means of just thanking them for supporting us with more than just your time. But we're always so thankful to have any of you sit down and listen to us bullshit every other week as we get together. So, Chris, do you have anything else you want to round the show out with, or are we good to go?
No, man. We're good to go. It was a good episode. Nice little tight episode for once in our lives.
Nice. There we go. All right, man. Well, as a way to say goodbye, we want to shout out Ryan Goldner, Low Rate Nate, Spencer, Brandon Edwards, Alex, Barry Rogers, Stingray X, Matt Tubbs, Easton 328, Bailey Robertson, Mark Schutz, Rude Days 93, Kevin Bacon Bits, Danny Villalobos, Jehudi MD, No Fate, Josh Ayers, Derek Porter, and Sean Santarude. Thanks to each and every one of you. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.